Gotta give it up for Coach. Big shout out to the coaches. Shout out to the coaches. You see, my coach, he believed in me since jump.
And welcome to another edition of Tough Talk with Coach P. I, of course, am your man, Coach P, and I'm thrilled to be here with you today. Today, we have an amazing show with none other than Coach Charles James of the James Gang of PPR. So I am definitely thrilled to talk with him. We're going to talk about the state of San Diego football, both high school and youth. And we're going to clear up some misconceptions about Los Angeles football versus San Diego. Last week, we discussed legacy over ego, the flip side of daddy ball. I had my guy Sean Scales on and his young son, Valor Scales. And we talked a little bit about what it takes to get to the next level on the youth level. So today we're going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to be a little bit more local. We're going to stick to San Diego and what's going on in San Diego. You are listening to Tough Talk with Coach P. I'll be back with Coach James on the other side. We'll see you in a bit.
The Standard is a youth mentorship program empowering young men ages 8 to 14 through athletics, personal growth, and structured guidance. Built on the values of discipline, teamwork, and integrity, The Standard connects sports with life lessons to help participants develop confidence, leadership, and strong character on and off the field.
You are listening to Tough Talk with Coach P. Real conversations with real accountability. Catch us every Monday on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. All right, welcome back to Tough Talk with Coach P. I, of course, am your man, Coach P. And like I said before, we've got a very special guest that we're going to have a conversation with, Coach Charles James. Man, thank you so much for coming on to the show. A lot of you guys know him from the James Game on KUSI and PPR, really doing big things. I, of course, have to say thank you for everything you did at San Diego High. I got my high school coaching start at San Diego High under the late, great Kier Kimbrough, may he rest in peace. That was my guy, gave me a shot. We started to do some great things there, and man, you just took it out the stratosphere. So I got to say my hat's off to you for that, because I got a special place in my heart for San Diego High, and what you did was amazing. So thank you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell our listeners about yourself. Most people know you, but just fill us in on who you are, your background a bit, and then we'll get right into the conversation.
Sounds good. I appreciate you having me on here. And I've been a fan of your sons and watching him go through high school and everything like that. He have got my vote for his PPR.
That's what's up.
But yeah, so I started out playing at Balboa when I was 7 years old. And I wasn't one of those guys that went all over, stayed with Balboa all the way through, and went to high school. My youth coaches were at San Diego High School. I went to Roosevelt, but I lived on 65th Street. Played for San Diego High while I was at Roosevelt. Then my junior year, I went to Morris in my neighborhood school and played for Coach Shaq. Went to CIF, Hawaii, all that. Ranked in the nation and all that. Then played for John Robinson at UNLV. We did some great things there. Beat Arkansas, won a bowl game. They just put us in the Hall of Fame the other day.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Had my stunts at the NFL trials and all that, and arena football and all that. Came back, started coaching with Coach Glenn Goins. Yeah, and then I just been, the coaching bug got me, and I just been in there ever since. Retired in 2020. I'm part of the dynamic three of Hall of Fame legends for coaches. Some people question it.
And no question here, man.
Yeah, and then I'm part of CIF now as well as a CIF director and PPR team, and we got some other things going, Diamonds in the Sand, and show that produced, written, and everything like that. Showing, paying homage to, some of the players that came out of here and who we got coming up next. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. Yeah.
All right. And shout out to my guy, Marshall. That's, I believe, is a part of that as well. I see him doing some really big things. I'm just wanted to give a shout out to Marshall as well, man. Keep doing your thing. So let's talk about that. Talking about San Diego and the great things that are happening, especially with the James Game. I always thought that PPR did not give enough love to youth football. So when I saw what you were doing, I thought that was amazing. So talk to me about how that came about, and you being kind of a big name in high school at the time. What led you down that path? Why did you go in that path instead of joining the traditional PPR desk, basically?
Paul Rudy, without him, none of it would be possible. But I had some enemies coaching.
Okay.
So, right now it's so funny because I'm cool with every coach. I have no problems with any coaches. But, when you in that competitive edge, you coaching against other coaches, you have those personal gripes that you have. And so Paul Rudy and the rest of the PPR team wanted me to join because a lot of the stuff I would do, as far as like if I was getting interviewed and stuff like that, I guess it would get views, and I would go live on Facebook and try to hype up my boys and stuff like that. A lot of stuff that you see today, I was doing on my phone way back in 2013, 14, 12. And, now a lot of people picked up a lot of those different things, but I used to just glorify everything that my team was doing. And Paul wanted me a part of the team, and he reached out to me my year that I was retiring. Everybody knew it. And every game they would ask me, like, are you joining the team? I'm like, no, I'm not a newscast.
Right.
That's tough. And so he was like, nah. So then the last game, I was like, yeah. They asked me again. I said, okay, I'll come out and find out how we do it. So we ran a pilot, but I had told Paul, I said, man, I really don't want to do the high school thing though, man, because, some high schools I might not even be welcome.
Right. Especially after what you did with San Diego High, I know you pissed a lot of people off.
Yeah, man. So Paul was like, nah, I wanna do a show on the youth. And I just, one thing about the youth, everybody doesn't know, but youth is it holds more numbers than Super Bowls or NBA championships or anything like that. Not everybody's gonna get to that level, but in youth, everybody can. So when you have globally, youth sports is the biggest. My segment is only like 45 seconds. But it's one of the strongest segments on the show. And I owe all that to the youth, to the parents and the kids and stuff like that, that is so into what we're doing. And even if it's a kid not even on their team, they're still supported and trying to see who the kid is for the week. So, and not only that, even nationwide and stuff, because we're nationally syndicated. But, those things are the things that I didn't get into it for. I just wanted to get back to the youth and stuff because it's a innocent game, man. If the kids see me out there, they go wild and people want to take pictures and all that stuff. People want to be a part of the show. People want to show me the highlights and stuff. I love that aspect of it. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. No, that's awesome. Which brings me to, I really want to bring kind of that experience, kind of what you guys are doing with PPR and the James game, bring a bigger experience for youth football here in San Diego. What do you think we need to do that? We're so fragmented here in San Diego. One of the things that frustrates me, and I'll be honest with you, and I've been all over this country promoting youth football. I've seen youth football all over the place. We've been live streaming games, all kinds of stuff where I've seen all different types of youth football products. But we're fragmented here in San Diego because it just seems like guys can't get on the same page, right? You know all the names of the guys that train the best kids or have the best kids. It's like we all can't get on the same page to really compete with the atmosphere that LA brings. Mm-hmm. What do you think, in your opinion, we can do to change that here in San Diego to give that experience to the kids that I know you've seen in your travels with football as well?
I think, well, part of it is, LA has the same problems we have as well. And I was born in LA, so my whole family's up there. I lived in LA before.
Oh, so yeah.
So they got the same problems. The difference is, it's like when you look at LA County, let's just talk about Los Angeles County. They're at 9,800,000 people.
Right.
And when you look at San Diego, our county, we're at 3 million. So, right. You're tripling numbers here. So the little issues that we can see in the 3 million that we have, they're having it too, but it's you have more people that might be on the same page that's in Long Beach, or right. might be on the same page in Los Angeles County. My cousin played for Carson all the way through Carson and in Carson High School. They had their issues too, but you wouldn't know the issues that they had in Long Beach or Orange County. Or the difference with those guys is, and they have a bigger pool. So when you talk about dominance, like, it's not like when we came up, who was dominant, the Dorseys, the Pollys, right, those guys. It's more the St. John Boscos and the Mater Deis and the Mission Viejos. Mission Viejo is not really technically LA. And then you have the St. John Boscos and the Mater Deis. but they get to get who they want. And then you're talking about a bigger pool. It's more money. It's all that. So who are our big namers? It's Cathedral, it's Saints. Those are our big numbers at one point, far as like what they can do to that same level.
Right.
But it has to be sanctioned a little bit, because if we did the same thing they did, it would kind of throw San Diego out of whack when it's already almost out of whack, but it would really throw 3 million out of whack. So we're kind of limited to what we could do, but LA still has their issues. Me, in my opinion, we've had more people that didn't grow up knowing. On Diamonds in the Sand, the show that we have, episode 1, I did this on purpose too. I wanted to bring back the coaches who started the youth here. Who was the coaches that had these Heisman candidates? The Keely Smiths, the Archie Emersons, the Rashard Salams. Who coached these guys? And I brought them all back on that show, and some of the stuff they told me, it was the reason why Pop Warner was the way it was structured, the way it was handled, how we can be at South Bay, and it was like real family oriented. South Bay was the only field that had lights. So everybody knew that we'll play all our games, and everybody's migrating to South Bay at the end of the night. And then everybody kind of, policed anything that happened negative, or each kids. I've been told by South Bay parents, Skyline parents, VP parents, hey, Charles, I'm gonna tell your mama, like I've heard it all the way through, and my mom as well. And so all the parents was kind of together, and that was that coach's atmosphere. Where it went out of whack, in my opinion, is when I started coaching, we had coaches that never played football, that never put on a helmet, and didn't know how this whole thing was structured, because everybody that put it in structure, got older, the kids grew up and they got away from it. So now you put in people are saying, I didn't play high school and I wanted to, or I didn't play youth and I wanted to, and I see this on TV. So I'm going to make these kids experience that. And the first thing that I seen was, I remember playing youth and going to the high school games and saying, man, I can't wait to get to high school, because you get to play at 7:00.
Right.
I seen a junior Pee Wee Q Bowl was at 8, and then the midgets played at 12. And I said, well, why are we doing that? They said, well, the junior Pee Wee, they're the kick boy down team, and they nicknames, and you know what I'm saying? And so I think a lot of that stuff is fun for some people, but I think the structures went away from that, to where you have the Ducks and you have like everybody has their own travel team, where it's almost picked up the basketball travel model.
Yeah.
So that kind of threw things out of whack. Now, it's thrown things out of whack everywhere, but when you have those big cities, you can maintain an area saying, no, we're going to keep things the same over here. But when you have a city like San Diego, it's very, very small, something like that can throw us all the way off.
Right.
And I think that's what happened was, I remember it was 8 teams. Yeah, South Bay, Balboa, VP, Skyline, Santee, Grossmont, you had Imperial Beach, and you had South Bay. Right. That was a team. So you had monster teams, way more competitive, because it was only 8 teams, and you had to play in those areas. So everybody in the South Bay would have played for South Bay.
Right.
That fed into Sweetwater. Then you had everybody play for Skyline, we'll go to Moores, everybody play VP, we'll go to Lincoln. So you had monster teams where you had teams so deep because there was only 8 teams. Well, now you got multiple teams, everybody starting their own teams, and you'll have 15, 17 players, to where now people are going out and saying, let's do the travel thing, which was financially hurting on some people, because you have to go to LA, you have to go to Arizona every week.
Right.
And now, when a lot of people shift back to Pop Warner, the rules are not the same as they were in youth, where a lot of the people that are like, oh, we can't have 15 different uniforms like Oregon, or we can't run up the score. So now it's a culture shock as far as like what we can do. So I think that's, and your last guest, that was one of the things that he was saying was, it's not tough football down here, and we'll go up to these other leagues or whatever. And I have, rebuttal for those things as well. But I think that's what the nutshell is we have good ball, but we have so many people involved now that didn't know the structure of it, where it used to be, where we had these Heisman candidates coming out, these D1 athletes, we had all these guys coming from this program because it was structured in a different way.
The Standard is a youth mentorship program empowering young men ages 8 to 14 through athletics, personal growth, and structured guidance. Built on the values of discipline, teamwork, and integrity, The Standard connects sports with life lessons to help participants develop confidence, leadership, and strong character on and off the field.
You are listening to Tough Talk with Coach P. Real conversations with real accountability. Catch us every Monday on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Now, I want to stay there a bit because when I was doing NSR, we were traveling, we were doing events all over the country, that type of stuff. COVID happened and it kind of destroyed that business. I ended up going back in corporate America, stepping away from youth football a bit. I ended up getting married. My wife has a 10-year-old son, and I got back into coaching football. The one thing that I noticed, and the thing that kind of got me back into it to where I'm in 10 toes down, I'm holding everybody accountable now. That's just what it is. The stuff that I saw that these coaches were doing, it blew my mind, Coach. These guys, they cannot coach. And then when you try to help them, because they don't have any kind of systems in place, a lot of these guys, like you said, there was this shift from when my son played, and then you had the old school coaches like Coach Paris and, those type of guys really studied the game. Back in the day, we used to it was mandatory that coaches that coached in youth football went to coaching clinics. All of that type of stuff was mandatory, whereas you don't have that stuff today. It's more of these guys, like you said, with the beatdown boys and all this other stuff going for clout, but nobody is really coaching these kids and developing these kids and building youth football programs. It's a bunch of youth football teams. And I think that is the bigger issue more than having an NPR rule or anything like that, because I believe if these coaches were really developing every player and they had a system in place to ensure that they were developing every player, we wouldn't need an NPR rule because the players would be developed, the league would be better, the football play would be better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think we need to do in order to galvanize the coaches here in the city? Because to me, that is the bigger problem. I've coached, as a matter of fact, when I was at San Diego High, I was the freshman head coach. And you would get a 300-pound guy that's 14 years old that had never played football before or had played football before but didn't know anything. It was the most frustrating thing in the world as a high school coach. What do you think we need to do? How can we reach these young coaches to let them know, hey, you guys don't know what you don't know, and let us old guys kind of talk to you guys and get you guys on the right track? What do you think needs to happen, particularly here in San Diego for that? Because I know that's a problem in LA. Trust me, I've been getting a bunch of feedback about that as well. The issue is not necessarily having a minimum play requirement. It is the lack of quality coaches. What do you think we could do about that?
Well, I've seen a lot, almost every team in San Diego. And you can see the difference in programs. There are some great coaches out here that's doing great things with coaches. And then there are some other ones that needs a little bit more coaching. And I think sometimes what happens is the issues that we have with parents, which is a huge issue. That was a huge issue with me my last few years. The quality coaches are like, man, if I go out there and give all my time and efforts, then I still got to deal with these parents that think that I go to sleep and wake up early in the morning and say, I'm going to ruin a kid's career today. Right. I'm going to ruin somebody's life. And so you get a lot of quality coaches, like you said yourself, you got back into it. And what got you back into it was your son. Well, if that wasn't there, would we have got you back into the game? So
Probably not.
So it's like a lot of the quality coaches are like, man, should I get back in this to give my time and efforts back? But then I have to deal with somebody, parent wanting to meet me in the parking lot. And then this is a whole new wave, man. I've seen a lot. I've seen parents go live and talk crazy to coaches, and I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of great things as well. But those are the things that are keeping a lot of the quality coaches out. And then you get some coaches that's like, hey, I might not know everything, but I'll just give my time and effort. So those coaches start to coach, and then I don't even give them the gripe, though, because sometimes I see a coach not know anything, but he's giving his time and effort to something that nobody else will volunteer for.
Now, see, Coach, you're nicer than me, because I always tell those guys, just because you're a volunteer doesn't give you the right to be mediocre.
Oh,
I mean, if you're going to volunteer to do, I just think, just because in my travels and seeing some of these kids, man, and you know this,
yeah.
a lot of these kids, that coach is going to be the first example of what a good man is.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that whether you're a volunteer or not, we should take that responsibility extremely seriously, right? You don't know. I know for me, I'm from Southeast DC, born and raised in DC. If it wasn't for football, I don't know if I would be here. I mean, football got me to college. Football got me here in California. I mean, I don't know if I would be here without football. So for me, I have a different relationship with the game, and I pour that into when I coach, when I do this type of stuff. You know, we're building a program called The Standard. You know, all of that stuff. We teamed up with the San Diego PD, so we want to make sure that it's a different type of experience where it combines mentorship with the athleticism and that type of stuff. So I'm trying to do things that I would want to see done. And then also, too, putting in place things where the coaches that deal with us, there's going to be mandatory coaching clinics and also what I call Coaches University, to where these guys are going to learn that the small parts of the game. Well, I hate to see guys running 5 wide, but their offensive line can't even get into a 3-point stance properly. Like, things like that drive me nuts. You know what I'm saying? So I want to be able to be a part of the solution, not just sit on a pedestal and talk trash. I want to be able to add or provide resources to these coaches that want to learn. And I think we just need more coaches like that want to learn. And you're right. But I have come back. I don't know. Maybe not. And I hadn't thought about it that way. So maybe I should cut these guys a little bit of slack. You know what I mean?
Well, I'll say this, and this is one of the topics that the coaches had picked up, and this is what I know. Did you played youth ball?
I did, but I'm from DC. So I played youth football in DC. I went to Florida A&M University. I got a internship my senior year in college that brought me to LA, and that's how I ended up getting in California, California.
So in San Diego, how they used to run it, and it ran this way for a long time. And I think this is one of the things that we can fix those things. When you have referees, right? All referees are just like kids. Right. And what I mean by that is they want to get to the big show as well.
Right.
So when you start as a referee, you're gonna do the youth games. You're gonna do the freshman games. You're not gonna do the varsity games until you build up your status.
Right.
So when you have when you first start reffing, you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to cause some flags that's not there, but you live and you learn. You shouldn't have did that because you can't do that in an open championship.
Right. Right.
So I believe the coaches should be the same way. So it's like, all right, if you're a new coach, we need to start you off at flag. And that's where you're going to learn the game, to teach the kids the basics. Because if you don't teach them everything in flag, they're not going to need to know everything at that level right there.
Right.
Basically, they need to know physical education. And let's be clear. Well, I remember playing when I started at Mighty Might, Coach Carl was the midget coach or junior band coach. And kids were like, I can't wait to get to that level because he's the coach of that level. And you knew once you got to that point, the levels got better. Coach Glenn was the Pee Wee coach, and you're going to learn the offense and defense. You're going to learn how to be in a state. You're going to know all that stuff. So before you even got to Coach Carl, you polished.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then if you wasn't polished, you just joined football at a late age and you just hopped right into the fire. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, you're going to learn with him because he's going to coach. But at the same time, when the coaches were there, you knew the best coaches were at the top and the starting coaches were at the bottom. You couldn't, at Balboa, Skyline, VP, you could not be a first-year coach and say, I'm getting the super team. I'm getting the midgets. That's going to Coach Emerson, Coach Asona, Coach Black, they getting those dudes. Like,
right.
They and they're watching underneath saying, oh, he don't know how to get in the stands, or he don't know how to do this, or they're saying, he playing out of position. That's our starting running back. Achilles Smith told me when he first started, he was a offensive lineman.
Wow.
David Dunn told me that he was a nose guard.
Wow.
When I started, I played college. I was a D1 wide receiver. I started, I think I was a nose guard number 73. So certain coaches can see the speed, see the size, see the whole thing and say, you know what, Coach Carl's like, by the time he gets to me, he's going to be the best quarterback, best DB or whatever the case may be in the game because he's seen something in me early, but he knew I had to develop all the way to get to it.
Right.
And so I think that's what we do now is like, I've had freshmen, I've had coaches who coach youth and said, I've seen some kids coach if I coach varsity.
Wow.
For me to get to a varsity head job, it took years.
Right.
I started off at rec ball.
Right.
And then when I went to Coach Glenn, I was on the freshman staff as a wide receiver coach. It took years before I even got my shot. And to be clear with you, I probably was one of the most qualified in the staff at the time because it's like, I played for John Robinson. I played for John Shackley. You know what I'm saying? Like I played for
the game.
I know the game. And then right with that, I've been in programs to see how they ran it. Delvon Alexander, who's at UNLV right now, Coach Banks, who was at Texas, Coach Nansen, who was at Arizona, was at SC. Those are my coaches. Like I could call them. It's not no, how you doing, Coach? It's what's up, CJ? It's a difference. So it's like I've came through the lineage of a lot of great coaches. So when I'm down there, I'm like, we should do this, we should do that. But I'm following what my coach says at the time. I never got my chest saying, I know more than you or whatever. So when they told me you need to start at the rec ball and build up your status, I took that like, that's what I got to do, Granted, at that time, like we didn't have black coaches. I've never seen one in San Diego. Coach McNair was the first black coach I ever seen. Well, no, Tony Jackson was the first black coach I've seen in San Diego football. Like growing up, like whoa, that's like an NFL player there, And then we seen Coach Tracy McNair, and then the time that I got on, it was 4 of us. But, nobody poked out their chest. It was like, I got to go through these steps. I got to go through these clinics. I got to get my game up and learn the offensive defense. When I fired all cylinders as a coach, it had to be maybe 2013, 2014, where you can put me anywhere on the earth, I'll make any program better. Right now, you put me anywhere, I'll make any program better. Now, I'm not saying that we can go out there and just win every championship, but if the team won 0 games last year, I'm going to get us to 5-5. Like that, like I just know how to run programs now. And it took me a long time to get to that point. Some of these coaches, they'll win a Cubo and just be like, I need to go to the show. Right. Like, yo, it's a lot to go against. And who taught me when I was at my best, I thought, was Coach Hamamoto, who was one of the greatest coaches in San Diego history. Yeah. Where Hamamoto just destroyed me the first time I ever played him. I'm like, I thought I had it all together. Right. That summer, I went up to him and I went to his practice. I talked to him. He told me certain things that I did wrong and where he was doing. And we're in a new age where I'm looking at stuff on Huddle and everything. He's still coming to games with a notepad. You know what I'm saying? Great. He want to see players up close. He don't want to see them on TV. I want to see what they size look like. Right. That takes a lot of years to get that under your belt. Now you got some of these new coaches say, give me all the best players. That's not coaching to me. That's not. Give me all the best players and we're going to dominate. No, if you get to the point where you have a small team, like you were saying, the state team. We were one of the smallest teams, and we won state, and they dropped teams down in our division because they wanted other teams to win, and we did that. But not only that, we put 16 in the college that year. I don't remember anybody sending 16 guys out, and we only had 19 on the team. So it's like those type of things like that, it takes a long time. It takes you getting out of your ego saying, who does this good, and let me go talk to them.
Okay, so let's stay there about mentorship and guys actually seeking out mentorship, because in my travels, I've had to do the same thing. When I first started coaching youth football and stuff, it was the same thing. I wanted to play against those guys that had the name, that were making noise. But not only that, I wanted to learn from those guys. Hey, what are you guys doing? How did you build it to get to this? And what can I take and add to it and make it my own? Yeah. But I think that's where the disconnect is now, because anytime you reach out to some of these young coaches and you say something like, hey, man, maybe, and I get it. There is, to be a head coach, there is a little bit, I won't say ego, but you kind of have to have a little bit of, I won't say arrogance. I don't know what the word is, but you kind of have to feel like you know your shit, right? Like you kind of have to feel like, you have to feel that way. So I get that. Mm-hmm. But then you also have to understand that there are some things that you don't know, and you want to be able to deliver the best product that you can. And sometimes you have to reach out to people that know things. That's been the biggest and the hardest thing in dealing with youth coaches.
That's only in our community, though. That's only in our community. I'll say this. I did a Nike game when we won state. Nike wanted me to, it was a big thing for them to not only know some of the X's and O's that I knew, but how was I morphing these programs everywhere I went? And a lot of coaches from Arizona and other places wanted to know, like, okay, because there were certain things that I was doing that they wanted to know. How did you get everybody on board? Parents, kids, admin. And then, they wanted to know X's and O's as well. Cathedral staff came to that clinic. And this is in San Diego. Nobody from San, even the teams that we were facing. Now, me, I'm different. I said, my staff, I said, yo, we about to play them. Right. Y'all go to them clinics, find out what they doing.
Right.
But Cathedral came, Coronado came, almost every Arizona team came, and that was it. And when you look and you say, dang, Coach Doyle, his status at the time, and yes, the players that he have, he's sending people to my clinic to find out what things he needs to do. So I remember we played this one team called Classical Academy. And the first year we played, I just didn't take them serious. I was like, Classical Academy. And it was one of the toughest games we coached in. We won barely. And we had Thomas Marcus, Raiden Hunter. We had all these D1 guys on the team. And I said, man, they're going to be a CIF team in like 2 years. And so this team, before CIF, I was the CIF director of the game. They went against Crawford. Crawford was undefeated. They come in there and they talk to, Coach, can you talk to our players before the game? And then they wanted me to talk to them like, what do we need to, I didn't know nothing about Crawford. It wasn't no plays. They want to know the mindset they got to have to go into this game. Right. They go in the game. They shouldn't have won. They won. And I said, man, they're so amazing because you're seeing number play corner. And why is he playing corner at 55? Because he was just playing guard. And they got screens and the whole package was amazing. I said, man. So the next week a couple weeks later, I was doing the Granite Hill State game. They drove down there because they heard I was there. So the coaching staff comes over and they say, Coach James, like, all right, now that we're here, how did you prepare to get to state? Like what things? I'm thinking they're there to watch the game. They asked me all these questions, and I'm like, you gotta prepare. It's a whole nother season because you got to get your guys motivated because they're thinking basketball and baseball and going through all these things. They listen to that and they say, okay, Coach, we appreciate everything, and they left. I said, y'all not watching the game? They said, no, we wanted to come talk to you. Wow. So to see where they went or whatever, I'm not saying that I'm the guru, but I'm pretty sure they talked to other coaches, but it was no ego there. They said, we need to find out who went here. I always tell people, you want to learn how to moonwalk, you're going to ask Tito or Michael. I'm asking Michael.
My answer to that is I'm going to go to the king. Okay? Yeah. So yes, definitely.
That's it. So I want to know, I'm going to go to Michael. Right. If I want to know how to run a wing tee, I'm going to go to the wing tee coaches, Coach Trace McNair, Coach Doyle, Coach Hamamoto. Like, I'm going to go to right. Spread offenses, you can go to the spread coaches. So I think some of the coaches, they just feel that they don't need any help or certain people they just don't feel that they can get information from. Me, I'm more a little I'll try to get information from anybody.
If it's going to make me better, I want to do it.
Athletics, personal growth, and structured guidance. Built on the values of discipline, teamwork, and integrity, the Standard connects sports with life lessons to help participants develop confidence, leadership, and strong character on and off the field.
You are listening to Tough Talk with Coach P. Real conversations with real accountability.
Now, I want to stay there as far as our community. Why is it like pulling teeth to get us on the same page? I know in my experiences, I'm sure we've come across a lot of the same people. It's hard sometimes to kind of galvanize us all because there's that feeling where it seems like we want to be the only one in the room. What do you think we could do to kind of fix that? And I'll say this, coming from Washington, D.C., I'm born and raised in Washington, D.C., everybody's Black. School teachers, the bus drivers, the police officers, the 7-Eleven workers, everybody is Black. Coming to San Diego was kind of or to California, period, it was a culture shock for me. I went to a Black college. I went to Florida A&M University. So coming here was a culture shock to me. But it's hard to get us, as small as our community is, on the same page. How can we solve that to where this coaching community is solid and secure?
That's a hard one because, we've had a lot of great coaches. I've been on the high end of that at one point, and I've been on the low end of that at one point where, I wasn't the guy, and at one point I was the guy. And, I think that in our community, it's not a lot of us because we kind of badmouth each other.
True.
If we got one coach that can do something well, if we're not cool with that coach and that coach is not in our camp, we're going to talk bad about that coach. Because I think a lot of times these coaches now, a lot, especially coaches in youth or high school, you want to get kids to be in your program.
Right.
If I'm at San Diego High and I say, man, Jason and Dede doing a great job over there, I'm taking the risk of players saying, well, if they're doing a good job, maybe I need to go over there. And that's why our community thinks on the youth level as well. Like, you want to go over there with them, or you want to come over here and win some games. Like, that's what we do. And I think, in North County and stuff, it's a little bit different. I've been up there with Coach Shoup's team and seen the Oceanside, Warriors and Pirates. Everybody got different names.
Right.
But for the most part, they look the same. They got the same colors and everything. But it's a real great atmosphere over there because when you go there, it's like it kind of reminds me of old school. Also with the Aztecs, it kind of reminds you of that old school feel where they have concessions. They got I remember having after practice running to the concessions trying to buy a soda and some liquids. And, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It was an all-day event to have concessions up there for the cheerleaders,
Right.
the football players, and everybody. So, they got that old school feel up there to where they believe in each other. They support each other, even though they're different levels, teams. But when I go up there, it's like I walk on the field and they'll be like, "Who you here to put in the game?" And if I say a certain player, they just like, "All right, yeah." But there's other places I'll go and be like, "I'm gonna put in here. You should be over here." Like, they know how to do it.
Right. But I think that speaks to what you were saying before, because out in Oceanside, there's a cultural difference. They embrace the culture and each one teach one. They bringing everybody along. It's a cultural belief up there. Whereas again, with us, it's we want to be the only ones in the room. That to me, I'll tell you, just over the years, that's been the most frustrating thing. And I remember when I was starting my transition into coaching high school, and I was no longer going to coach my son at the youth level. And you can imagine, and I'm a tough coach, so I'm even tougher on my son, right? Why? Because you're the best player on the team. There's a certain standard that has to be. I can't be up here talking all this stuff, and then my son is acting a fool, right? We just can't do that. So he's getting it on the way to practice. He getting it at practice. He getting it on the way home. You understand what I'm saying? So finally, I felt like, you know what? He's a good enough player to where it don't matter who's coaching him. He going to make it do what it do. And I'm going over to high school, but I wanted to make sure that he was going to be in a position where it was still going to cultivate the football stuff. We're not going to go to no place where it's going to hurt his development. So at the time, I was going to go to either Skyline, who had Adrian Petty, who was the other running back, who was very fast, great running back, I was going to put Elijah with him, and man, the beauty that they could have created would have been awesome. But I ultimately sent him to Steel Canyon with Coach Paris, who, of course, is a white coach. And the main reason why I sent him there is because of the way the program was run. The way he did things, the way he ran practice, the way he communicated with the parents, the way he picked his starters, the way he disciplined his players. All of that stuff made me want to entrust my son, whom I love with all of my heart and who I knew, the boy was special, and I knew that he was special. So, and I had my own aspirations as far as becoming a high school coach, but the backlash that I got for that. And when I would tell them, hey, especially like from Skyline and from like Balboa and from places like that, why would you take him over there? Why wouldn't you bring him over here with us? And then when I asked them, okay, how are you going to use him? What offense are you going to run? How is your practice set up? What type of support system? They couldn't answer any of that stuff for me. That's why I made the decision. It ain't have nothing to do with being black or white, and I'm pro-black as they come. But I had to do what was in the best interest of my son's development as a football player, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's that type of stuff. And I wanted to go over to Skyline, but they could not answer the questions for me why I should do that outside of the fact that you're black and we're black.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You know, my daughter, we knew at one point that she was going to be a dog when it came to the track world. And first, my wife was coaching. So we're not coaching against my own kid.
Right.
And so, she was approached by a lot of coaches, but we said if she wasn't going to, she was gonna run for San Diego High, Coach Dean and Coach Patricio. And at the time, they didn't have the best team at all. But to me, I'm coaching football down there, and I'm seeing what they're doing with the kids that are not that great. They're going to CIF. They're not getting over that mountain, but they're going to CIF with kids that are not that fast. So it was like, my thing was, I'm looking at me as a coach saying, I don't have the best kids, but I'm pulling the best I can out of them. Right. That's what I look at for coaches, because if you get that diamond, then you're going to go ahead and do your thing. So Coach Patricio was like, Cece, because he was coaching her since she was like 9. So he was like, I would really love to coach Cece all the way through. And I said, listen, if my wife's not coaching, you got her all the way through. And they did amazing things. 2-time state champion and 27 D1 offers. And now she's the mountain champion and Hall of Fame, all the accolades.
Wow.
Now she's getting ready she's training for the Olympics coming in LA. So, all those things that I knew with the right coaches, she would get to where she needed to be. That was my thing. And a lot of people said, why she didn't go to Helix, or why she didn't go to Cathedral, or why she didn't go to the big time schools or whatever. And it's like, I looked at coaching, right. Like hands down, I looked at coaching, like who are the best coaches for her event? It was Coach Patricio,
right?
Who was the best hurdle coach in the county, but he wasn't with the best team.
Right.
That's sometimes our community kind of looks at that like we want all the best players. And I think that hurts us sometimes because, you have some teams that got 3 platoons of people and you win a championship, but then the kids they don't get nothing else after that.
Right.
Kid from Army Navy, like last year, who goes to Washington. Yeah. Right. You get a kid from Kearney when Will was over there who goes to Purdue. Those are the things I think hurt us sometimes. It's kind of like, them dudes that's sitting on the bench right now could be starting somewhere else.
Right.
But
right.
Our parents, that was another thing too, to the parents that are like, oh, we got to be around it. Well, are you willing to, I'm not willing to roll the dice with my kid's future, especially not at that level.
Right.
You got 4 years to do it. So it's like, yeah, you might be better than this kid or a little bit less or whatever kids can be. I'm not going to roll the dice to say, well, maybe the coach might like him. No, my athlete has to be willing to put in that time and that effort and earn a spot.
Right.
He has to go somewhere where he can earn that spot. We all know, whoever you get right now and you say, oh, we're going to St. John Bosco, it's a political game over there.
Absolutely. Yes.
You know, like
Yes.
you go to Modern Day right now, the Modern Day in LA, you go to Mission Viejo, you go to any of those schools in that Trinity League, it's a political game.
Right.
You will have to come in and be Reggie Bush himself to be like, I'm here and I'm starting, or
Right.
opportunity to start. But because I did that at one point, you know, I went to Long Beach, I was ranked in the country and all this other stuff from San Diego, from Morris, and I go up there to JC because I didn't get recruited right out, so I had to do one semester at a JC. I went to Long Beach City, and I'm talking about back of the bus, like they didn't care nothing about nothing. You know what I'm saying? I transferred back to Mesa with Coach Moss and Coach Kofler, who knew who I was, and I'm in the starting lineup week 2. Like, not saying I know who you are and getting the starting line. It was like, these 3 guys in front of you, can you beat them out? Give me 3 days. So it was like that, and I had the opportunity. And when I got the opportunity, I surpassed the people that was starting over me in Long Beach.
Right.
And if I stayed in Long Beach and the coach was like, well, you got to earn it. I don't have time to be sitting here earning a shot to get out of here in one semester when you have a whole platoon of guys who you already know from Long Beach Poly, this just because it's Poly, because it's Dorsey, because, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of these parents sometimes, when they talk that iron, sharp as iron, dense iron too sometimes.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
So
Yes, it does.
it's like you got to make those smart decisions. And I'll say this too, because I know I've been talking. I talked to Texas. They were recruiting Raiden Hunter. Texas came in and I said, hey, why do you guys come to San Diego so much? Because we see the kids that they get. You know, they got Brandon right now. They had Ricky Williams. We always send guys to Texas. Coach Banks, who was my coach in college, he's there now as assistant head coach. And they say, well, you know, Texas runs year-round football. Year-round football. Mm-hmm. All the kids, and they're in helmets and stuff. If we can get somebody under them like this from California, they got less miles on them.
Right.
And I know that I'm going to get this kid in there with no injuries, and we're going to make him what he is. Even if he's here or here, we for sure taking him. But all we need is this right here from a California kid over a Texas kid for us to take him. Because that kid's been playing tackle football in the highest level against dogs from 8th grade. So it's like they got so many miles and injuries on them by the time they get to high school. It's like, why wouldn't you take somebody just as good that has way less games?
Right. I remember my first experience with Football University. I got to go out to San Antonio and coach in that Army. It was called the Army All-American game then. But I coached in the youth game, and one of the coaches out there, he was a youth coach from Texas, and he was saying the same thing, that by the time they're, 11, they got off-season weight programs. And I was like, y'all got kids lifting weights, man, at 11? He said to me, Coach, if we didn't, we wouldn't be able to compete like everybody else is doing it. And I was like, man, that's extreme. You understand what I'm saying? Now, I'm a football lover and I'm a football purist, but lifting weights at 11, that's a lot.
It is. And then you look at some of the parents, like I hear this from parents all the time, especially when I coach. They want to do the most with kids, especially as young kids. And then you sit there and say, you know, if you just look at, because it's all public knowledge.
Right.
Who do you know that got picked up major that their life was like that? Like, I know for sure, when you look at Brandon and Falave, they both were not like that. Brandon ran track, played football when he played football, ran track when he ran track. Falave, he played football year-round for good teams, but he wasn't a gang of 7-on-7s and traveling here, traveling there. Like, his family trained him. His family has a training facility where they train him, and he played football, but it wasn't that much damage on his body. They didn't do all those things. Now you're looking at 2 number ones in the country from San Diego. When people be like, oh, San Diego don't got a good ball. Okay, if they don't got a good ball, why is Julian Stanton a Heisman candidate and he's starting for Ohio State right now?
Man, and he is out there balling. And he might be the most efficient quarterback in the nation right now. I mean, when I see what he's doing, I'm not one of those things where you could say oh, well, he's got the two best wide receivers in the nation because he does. But where he puts the ball, dude's ready to go right now. Nasty, man. And he's just unflappable, too. Every time I watch him, he makes me proud, man. Like you know what I'm saying?
But you got him, you got Keely. Before him, had the Bishop quarterback. You got Mr. Hill's quarterback right now. You got we got quarterbacks.
I'm gonna say this about San Diego that is undeniable because, of course, the last episode started a little storm, but where people were talking about the differences. And again, he's a San Diego guy, and his travels and what he wants for his son and that type of stuff led him down that road to where he moved his family to Orange County so that they could be a part of what they have going on. And that works for him because, he has a plan for his son. And I'm all for that, right? Like if I always say this, if my son at 8 years old was a gifted piano player where he was just brilliant, I would take him out of the 8-year-old piano lessons and I would put him with the right piano people to embellish that skill. So I don't have a problem with that. I think you should do that with youth football as well. The thing that I see though here in San Diego, where we have athletes that can play anywhere. And like you said, I think because we have a lot of variety here, athletes, I'm also all for athletes playing multiple sports. I think you need to do that. And it helps you become a better football player also. So I'm all for that. But then all of us also too, I'm all for a person kind of honing in and this is what I want to do. And I don't think that you could put an age limit on that. What do you think about that in terms of kids playing different sports versus sticking to one sport? What's your opinion on that type of stuff?
Well, real statistic, 88% of the NFL draft this year, 88%. And I think we hit close to 90 in 2017. 88% is multi-athletes.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
What people don't understand is like when you look at like all the stuff, football has not changed, first of all. A lot of people think football's changed. Football has not changed. People talk about, Pop Warner offense, stuff like that. Everybody's not running zone read in the NFL. They're right as a package. They're running two wide receivers, tight end, a quarterback, fullback. They still have all that. Right. So, because football is football. The problem with what you're seeing where Marcus Brady is a good friend of mine. We spent time with the Chargers this offseason at their practice. And one of the things they were talking about Hubbard at one point, they wasn't saying this when we was up there the year before, was saying Hubbard had to adjust by taking snaps underneath the center because in college he was doing a zone read. And now you have all these quarterbacks that don't know how to do that because it's so much in high school and college spread and we in the shotgun. But in the NFL, they're under the center. We're doing play action, stuff like that. So if you've seen somebody run a pro-style offense in Pop Warner, people will talk about that. When the level that you want to get to is the pros.
Right.
So if that's the level you want to get to, why are we not running pro-style with a tie and all? So, they say these things, a lot of people say these things, but they're not looking at the real, the real about multi-athletes. If you look at 88% of the NFL draft is multi-athletes where they're playing all these other sports. Antonio Gaines was a basketball player. They were saying that Allen Iverson hit his best sport was football. LeBron James was the number one wide receiver in his class and the number one basketball player in his class. Mm. All these things people don't look at, but a lot of I think what's his name? I forgot. Matt Barnes. Matt Barnes was the number one wide receiver in the Bay Area.
Wow.
All these guys who play basketball and whatever, they're multi-athletes. Antonio Gates went to Michigan State as a basketball player. He didn't, and he's a Hall of Famer.
That's one of the ones that's just crazy. I mean, to be able to translate it that way and not only be good at the position, but make it to the Hall of Fame.
Sean Merriman, because I talk to Sean all the time. We on his platform with our show. Sean said that he wasn't a football, but he didn't play football. They got him on the basketball court. He was a basketball player. Stephen Cooper, a good friend of mine. Coop said, "Man, I played basketball. I was a hooper, and I was a quarterback. These are two of the best linebackers in the NFL."
Now, Coops, that's crazy that he played quarterback. Right? When you see him now, I mean, he got muscles come out his ears. It's nuts.
Let me actually went to college as a quarterback.
That's crazy.
Coop told me, I said, "Well, how'd you go to linebacker?" He said, "The linebacker went down. The coach didn't have a linebacker. I told him in the game, I can do it. And they put him at linebacker. He never came out."
Wow.
So, but this is the thing with NFL guys. The reason why they're so good at these positions are because they're so they were skilled players, and then they transitioned to these other guys. And so I think that's what some people, we forget sometimes. It's like, yeah, you might have a guy who plays. Raiden Hunter, for me, was all through youth, he was a nose guard and a guard. He went to college as a D1 running back. Those things, people don't really look into those things like that. They just, I'm a focus on this. And sometimes I do this to myself. It's like, you'll look at some kids and coaches do this all the time. And college coaches the reason why they want to meet your mom and they want to meet your dad is because they want to see how big your dad is, how tall your dad is. They want to see big, tall your mom. When Coach Robinson met my mom, he was like, okay, because my mom is kind of taller. She's like 5'8", 5'9". My dad is like 6'2", 6'3". So when I was a youth guy, everybody's like, okay, he's going to get that growth. My wife is short and I'm tall. My daughter was past her when she was, in the 6th grade. My youngest one right now, she's past her too. And she's, in the 8th grade. But they took on the dad gene where they're going to get that height. So sometimes as as parents, it's like if you, I'm not even going to tell it was some guys talking about basketball players. And the joke was moms don't look like moms no more of D1 athletes. And they were saying if you want to go and get the Dreas, they're not pushing out no D1 athletes. Right. And so they were talking about Lala and Carmelo Anthony. Lala's tall.
Right.
She's tall. Carmelo Anthony's tall. So now look at their son. So, LeBron's wife is not really tall. Bronny is not that tall, but the youngest one got you never know but when you got two pairs that are big and tall, 9 times out of 10. So if you look at all the quarterbacks right now that are over 6'3", go look at their peers. I guarantee one of them 6'3" or both of them 6'3". And that's how coaches do. I'm not saying that happens all the time.
I know that's a big part of it because especially at the NCAA level, I mean, where them scholarships are gold, they're looking at everything, to make a decision, of who they're going to do, especially when you got the transfer portal and with these, and that's a whole nother show for another day. But when you have all those things and the way that it affects high school football and recruiting in high school football, and now you have to be even better as a high school athlete to get that scholarship, and you have to do more off the field. So yeah, definitely, I think in those situations, being a two-sport athlete helps.
You have to put yourself in that realm. Mike Fernandez with Kiko. Kiko's an amazing athlete. In my opinion, I think Kiko would have had, and he's doing well out there, but I think he would have had a bigger name because he left with a name. Right. I think he would have had a bigger name in San Diego because everybody knew him and knew what talent he had. Up there, he had to really earn that again, which he did. Right. But Mike, Kiko was playing quarterback and running back at a young age. And he said, man, Kiko only going to be about this. So Kiko got to learn how to play slot and wide receiver. And he made the transition. And I think it was a smart decision because if he continued to play running back and quarterback, he has no chance. He's not going over Julian Satan. He's not going over the Mission Hill quarterback looking like a NFL quarterback right now. Right. He's huge. So it's like you wouldn't have these opportunities. So to get these opportunities, you have to put those kids in those positions. And to do that, it's about learning those things now. It's about learning, how to play those positions. My cousin was a DB for me, and he went to Utah out of San Diego High. He came there. My uncle wanted him to play wide receiver and all this other stuff. And I said, listen, I don't even know if I play. I was one of the top wide receivers in the country. But if I came right now, the way the speed and the way they learn all these routes, to hop in it right now, you not get picked up. You got these Chris Olaves out here, these Rashid Shaheed, like, bruh, it's different.
Man, that's different speed, yeah.
It's different. And so now, when we went to DB, because he plays basketball, he had good hips, he had long arms. He knew he knew the defense and he knew the offensive side because he played wide receiver too. It was easy for him. He made a couple hits, couple picks, stopped some top notch. But he went against the Keyshawn's. He went against the Don Chapman's. He went against those guys who went to the SEC and Utah said, we want him. If he was at wide receiver, I don't think he would have got that chance.
Right.
I just don't think, because he didn't know enough at that time. So it's like, you got to be smart about where you put your players too.
But I think that goes back to also what we talked about earlier, you being a coach, you being able to, because you know the intricacies of, both positions, the wide receiver position, defensive back positions. You study your craft, you know the game, you know how to evaluate talent. And that's the reason why ultimately you put him in the position that was going to be successful for him, because you have a reputation of knowing what you're talking about. You do the work, you study, they put their trust in you. So once you made that decision, it was easy for them to trust you. It's one of those situations now where that's where the disconnect, particularly in San Diego, and I know this happens all over the place, but that's, I think, where the disconnect is. We have to find a way, particularly at the youth level, to coach these coaches in a manner in which they will receive it. And you having the opportunity with the James game, and finally, I guess we can wrap this up with this to bring it back to youth football. What have you seen around the youth football landscape that we're doing good here? And then what are some of the things, and we'll end with this, what are some of the things that need to change in San Diego to kind of make sure that we're developing these players so by the time they get to you at San Diego High, they at least know the basics. They at least have a foundation. Like I said, my 2 years as the freshman head coach at San Diego High were probably my most frustrating coaching years because Kier kept taking as soon as I would develop a player, they gone, they playing varsity. That's number one. And then number two, just getting them, and they come from these programs, but they don't know anything, and you kind of have to re-coach them. What are we doing good in youth football? What do we need to improve in?
Well, I think we're doing very, very good as far as what we're putting out. Like I said earlier, everything is public knowledge. So if you look at the percentage of how many people we have in San Diego, how many seniors do we have in San Diego total, and then you say how many are signing major, how many are signing mid, and how many are signing low level, we're pushing out more numbers than a lot of people. So if I go off for percentage wise, I'm a roll the dice with that.
Per capita, we're killing it. I mean, when you look at, and I'm talking about the big time players that come out of San Diego, I would say per capita, we're doing better than even LA.
For sure. Yeah. And when you say on state level, Lincoln beat De La Salle. They beat,
just crazy.
They beat on their state run a whole bunch of people. When we went to state, we beat a lot of people. Every year that we go to state, we are king when it comes down to that. The teams that we send out there, and we have small teams that we don't play year round. Right. So some of that is working for us. I think when it comes to youth, what we can do better, I think everybody just needs to get on the same page, because having these different leagues, I think it dilutes the talent a little bit.
Yes.
Because we do have talent, but it dilutes it a little bit. And then I think that if we kind of dial it back into the essence of Pop Warner, or something to look forward to, because I think sometimes that kind of takes away from the kids, where it's like, if I went to Florida and all these games, traveling and stuff like that, I understand some parents, you gotta, the goal is not youth. The goal is not youth. The goal, if you tell me that you want to win a sumo and not win, half the NFL players that we sent did not win QOs. Right. When I was in college or whatever, some of the people that I went with is like, did you ever win a cue ball? Did you ever go? Nah, I didn't start football until this time. Like, so it's like when you what is it really about? It's not about youth. And some people say, oh, we got to have the best talent. Why? Why in youth? If you play, it's about development, learning the game, and that's it. Because once you get to the higher levels, you're going to learn these things. But I think when we take the game and we make it so amplified that the kids say, they'll come into a freshman game and say, I don't want to play freshman. I'll play another year of youth. And why you don't want to play freshman? Your game's at 3:00. The parents are complaining. 3:00. I don't get off till 3:30. And then they sit. Then the kids is like, wait a minute. These are our jerseys, hand-me-downs? Like, that was a part of the game when we came up to say, yeah, we got the rip old varsity jersey, but when we play varsity, you're right. Well, the when you playing youth, some of these coaches are lacing them with stuff that varsity don't even have. So when they get to varsity, it's a downplay. Like, I'm not even going to play for the school I need to go to, my home school, because they don't have the best uniforms, or they don't go to this place, or they don't go to that place. So now the coaches are competing more on. I did it as a coach too. We took our kids to the Omni Hotel every year. That was our first game. We took them on the whole thing, but I was trying to give them an experience. Some of my kids went to a hotel, but then you take on the gripe of everybody saying, now we got to compete with Coach James, not thinking he's just trying to give them experience. I got to do that to keep my kids because I don't want them to go over there. And then you see music videos from coaches, and you like a whole music video, and
it's a different day,
Coach.
I mean, it is.
Yeah, the whole other day competing on kitty. Well, let me sit back.
12 you with a Lambo.
Right. The Rock Boys had a video. Everybody had videos. I'm like, who's the rapper in the video? I think some of those things are, if coaches really had a choice, they wouldn't be doing that. If they really had a choice, they wouldn't be doing that. They would sit there and do the X's and O's because all of them can coach. But I think that's one thing youth is getting out of hand. They put so much in these kids where they're coming out the tunnels. They got jumbotrons. They got the smoke machines. So when they get to high school, they expect those things. And it takes away the essence of my high school experience, because now you're like, I have more fun in youth. And then half the kids don't even want to play high school. It's like, it ain't fun. I ain't playing for the coach. We ain't traveling to Florida. We ain't doing that, so I don't want to play.
Right.
That's why you have basketball right now in the basketball world. When we came up, there was movies about it. People was getting signed from high school basketball. Now you have to play travel ball to even get a scholarship. So it's turning to that with the youth. So I think we could do a better job of maybe dialing that down a little bit, saying, hey, if you're a midget going to high school, the midget division, they have the 8:00 game. I don't care how good your junior Pee Wee team is, they playing in the morning.
Right.
The Standard is a youth mentorship program empowering young men ages 8 to 14 through athletics, personal growth, and structured guidance. Built on the values of discipline, teamwork, and integrity, The Standard connects sports with life lessons to help participants develop confidence, leadership, and strong character on and off
You are
the
listening
field.
to Tough Talk with Coach P. Real conversations with real accountability. Catch us every Monday on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
I'm gonna be real with you, because I'm definitely one of those guys that want to bring a different experience for youth football. But the way you're explaining it to me, I hadn't even really thought about it in that terms. And maybe I need to do a better job of big picture thinking, how that affects them psychologically going into high school and then going into college and beyond. So you've definitely, with that, you've definitely given me something to think about as I go forward. So I think we're going to leave it there. I definitely want to have you back on to talk more NIL stuff and that type of stuff, because we know that's coming, and that's going to be crazy, man. Before I let you go, what's new with the James game? What can we expect from you in the future? What do you got coming?
We got the gala coming up on December 2nd. Something new that Paul put in there. We're doing the youth just like the high school. We got six kids that are representing the best kids in the county. That made the podium.
Okay.
One will be crowned, just like athlete of the year is the first year ever in history.
That's awesome. That's dope.
Youth. So that's something else that I'm like, but that's what he wants to do. And I think, we'll see how it goes. For me, it was hard because you're dialing down because there's more youth kids than high school.
So I would imagine quick story, right? And Paul Rudy, he knows who I am because I gave him plenty of headaches. Okay. When my son was in high school, because my son's junior year was, in my opinion, better than his senior year. And we got invited to the thing. I knew we weren't going to win, but it was one of those situations where I was public about it too. I'm not even going to lie, to the point where I don't think he likes me very much. Right. But I was like, if it's a senior award, just say it's a senior award, man. I was really hot, man. So I felt that was a funny thing. I was completely out of line. I was completely wrong. I was wrong. Okay. Because it was what it was. I made it more about something that it shouldn't have been about. And, it is what it is. But I thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot that goes into picking those guys. And again, selfishly, we wanted to win that thing back to back. But, I digress.
It's a hard thing. Matter of fact,
I can imagine.
He ate his words this year on air with an interview with Chris Olave. Chris Olave did an interview, and Chris Olave wasn't even on the podium.
Wow.
And so he was like, I'm sorry. So
wow.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, it was tough this year across the board with the guys that we get, but I think we got some good guys up there. You're never going to get it right when you have so much talent in San Diego.
Right.
But that's the thing that we were talking about. And I think San Diego has so much talent, and with anybody saying that LA has more talent, it's like you want to be, it's not too many. And I'll leave it at that. We'll close this up. It's not too many that can be the big fish in that big pond.
Right.
Because if you look at the statistics of LA, it's close to 50%. Top recruits are linemen.
Right. Which is for LA, considering the money that the athletes spend in training. They got a lot of quarterbacks up there, Steve Clarkson and all those guys up there that do their quarterback academies and stuff like that. You would think that they would be putting them out, but I don't think they hold a candle to San Diego. I think we're crushing them per capita in terms of big time football talent that comes out of San Diego. And then let's not even get into baseball and basketball, what we're putting out here in San Diego. So
the reason we talked about earlier is like, okay, let's just say if Julian Sand went to Mission Viejo or Mission Hills or something like that. I'm not saying that he wouldn't start or nothing, but now you're on the chopping block with 3 other dogs.
Right.
One of y'all can only play.
Right.
Now, when you go down to San Diego, the Mission Hills quarterback was there as a freshman with Julian.
Wow.
They were on the same team. So Julian left like, yo, I gotta get it. I mean, not Julian, the Mission Hills quarterback. So now he went to Mission Hills and made his own name there. And they had 3 or 4 quarterbacks that came out of there. So, I mean, the thing about it, I think in San Diego is we're spread out to where we have those big time players that are like the 6'3", the super blazing fast, because Falave is not real big. He's just dominant on both sides of the ball, and he's super fast. He ran like a 10.7, never ran track. This is a freak of nature.
Oh, that's crazy.
So he's able to do that. Now, if Falave was in LA without the name and stuff, he would have to go out there and compete, which he's not scared of none of that. He would, but I think his light gets dimmer around those 6'4", 6'5" linemen that are 300-something pounds that we don't have guys like that in San Diego. Our thing is skill.
That makes sense. And I mean, I say this all the time, man. I believe our San Diego kids can play anywhere. And for me, I just want to be able to to bring a spotlight on those guys for people to see it. And that's just what my mission has always been. Not necessarily, started with my son, but then the love that I have for me anyway. I think that my mission in life is to help young men reach their goals. I mean, I just use football and sports as the catalyst. But the real reason why I do what I do is to help young men reach their goals. That's it. Football is just the method that I use to give it to them. So that's why I do this. I want to make sure, and I'm sure that that's why you do it. That's why when I said it, you lit up. And that's why you do it too. Anything I could do to perpetuate the goal, man, is a phone call away, and that's real talk. And man, get me on the media thing so I can get into the game. Let me bring me in a suitcase.
We'll get you in there. I'll tell you this too, and I'll say this last thing. With San Diego, when we stop producing these athletes is when we could say something is going bad. But right now, having the number one junior in the country and the number one senior in the country,
you know what? And I think with that being said, we'll leave that right there. So for anyone that really wants to understand that and that does not think or doesn't understand what it is that we have here in San Diego, we'll just leave them with that. Coach, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you. Like I said before, what you did at San Diego High, I was watching that from afar. Like, I wish that we could have done that. I ended up leaving and going to Kearney with Coach Neers when he was the head coach there. Because I had the opportunity to be the offensive coordinator. So for me, that was a step up. So I went over to Kearney, and San Diego High was in that transition. And then you came, man, and just took it over the top. So I really appreciate you. And again, thank you for coming on. Man, we'll definitely be in touch. Because I got some other stuff that I got going on. We'll talk about that offline though.
Oh yeah. We always got something. So anything I got going on, you more than welcome to be a part of our camps and clinics and all that stuff. So I got a lot of stuff going on. We'd love to have you there.
I appreciate it. All right, my brother. I thank you for coming on. You've been watching Tough Talk with Coach P. We're out.
Gotta give it up for Coach. Big shout out to the coaches. Shout out to all the coaches. You see, my coach, he believed in me since jump. I'm a product of his coaching. Gotta give it up for Coach. Big shout out to the coaches. Yeah. You see, my coach, he believed in me since jump. I'm a product of his coaching. Gotta give it up for Coach.